You're watching Camnet TV, not just another channel with Banda Tandiwe. Welcome to Camnet TV main news. The headlines. Chief Kalasa Lukangava praises government's developmental agenda for his chiefdom. UPND maintains Bill 10 is a dead issue. Chishimba Kambwili declares himself fit for all his 5 court cases. In international news, Sudan flooding killed at least 110 people. And in sports news, Kawe Warriors signed Ghanaian striker Bless Selassie Bakai. Do stay with us as we return with our details after this break.
Msika is here. We have you all covered with just 150 kwacha. You can advertise every day from 17 hours to 18 hours. For a 30-second ad, get the benefit of selling your products and services on Msika. For more details, call our marketing department on +260 953 995099 +260 962 444 726 or +260 971 177 467. Email us on info@camnettvafrica.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you a filmmaker? Well, you are exactly what we're looking for.
Camnet TV is calling on local filmmakers. For more details,
You can visit our headquarters in Ibex Hill, next to Hilltop Hospital.
contact us on
0962 444 726. Camnet TV.
not just another channel.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. We begin with our news. The Opposition United Party for National Development, UPND, says as far as the party is concerned, Bill 10 died a long time ago, adding that it will be brought to the House when Parliament resumes this Friday is something they do not know. UPND National Chairperson Mutale Nalumango, speaking in Solwezi, wonders why the Patriotic Front PF-led government is so much interested in the bill despite several voices opposing the bill. On Tuesday, while briefing the nation on the official opening of Parliament this Friday, Government Deputy Chief Whip Tutwa Nguluve announced that Bill 10 is among the other bills to be considered once Parliament resumes. More details in this report.
The Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 of 2019 has been in the public domain for over a year now. Government is pushing the bill, saying it's got a lot of advantages to the people of Zambia, while the majority in the opposition are against it, saying it's only meant to perpetuate the PF stay in power. On the 21st of July 2020, the 4th session of the 12th National Assembly adjourned sine die on account of several members of Parliament and staff at the National Assembly contracting the coronavirus. On the 22nd of July 2020, leader of the opposition and Monza Central Member of Parliament Jack Mwimbu informed the nation that the adjournment of the House signified the end of the bill's.
Please note that the so-called Bill 10 died and was buried on the 4th of June 2020. There is an unmarked grave at Chingere.
Mr. Mwimbu explained that parliamentary standing orders state that once a session ends, all the bills on the order paper elapses and cannot be admitted in the next sitting. But as Parliament resumes this Friday, Government Deputy Chief Whip, during a press briefing on Tuesday, announced that the Bill 10 will continue.
Whether Bill 10 is one of the bills that will come up in this session, I wish to announce that Bill number 10 is one of the bills that will be considered in the budget session that is starting this Friday. I also wish maybe to add further that the debate on Bill number 10 had started. And also at the time when we were actually adjourning, some members of Parliament had debated, and so whoever was on the floor when the debate was disrupted will be allowed to continue with his debate. And so we wish to state that there is nothing that stops Parliament from bringing back Bill number 10 or any other business that was disrupted on the date of the last adjournment.
The UPND, through its national chairperson Mtalena Lumango, in an interview in Solwezi Wednesday, says as far as her party is concerned, the bill is dead unforgotten.
Not saying bill 10. How can a bill be stuck? It is number 10. They have not passed any bill in that house. Come on, why are we misleading Zambians? There will be no bill 10, but their wickedness only can come to parliament again. Bill 10 can't. It's naturally dead. It cannot resurface. What they will bring is a ghost of bill 10.
Mr. Lumango also talks about the voter registration and her party's expectations.
Let us physically go and register. And I'm insisting to this patriotic front through their ECZ, the Electoral Commission of Zambia, that after all is done, we want the registers out on time so that we can check and ensure that there is no misplacement of names. So that we can go and vote. I am saying this to the Patriotic Front and Esa Uchulu led ECZ to ensure that every Zambian has a vote. It's not differentialized. Every Zambian knows. 3 months before, all of us should know my card is in order.
Kalan Muchima reporting for Camnet News.
National Democratic Congress leader Chishimba Kambwili says he is fit enough to face the court after his quarantine. The NDC leader told journalists shortly after appearing before Lusaka Chief Resident Lamek Mwale that he is in good condition. The NDC leader was appearing before the Lusaka Magistrate Court in one of the cases. He is accused of defaming President Edgar Lungu, alleging that he was a dog. Let's get the details in this report.
Opposition National Democratic Congress leader Chishimba Kambwili, who has been away from the court premise over a month, finally appeared before the Lusaka Magistrate Court this morning for his continued trial in one of the cases that he has been charged with. The NDC leader, who looked energetic and in good condition, was in self-isolation over a month after testing positive to COVID-19 on the 9th of August 2020. He appeared before Lusaka Chief Resident Magistrate Lamek Mwale for his continued trial in a defamation case, an offense he's accused of inferring that President Edgar Lungu is a dog. This offense follows his arrest last year after a video circulated on social media where he is alleged of uttering the said words. Kambwili is currently on bail. Kambwili's case failed to take off as the arresting officer, who is the last witness, was transferred to Muchinga province and failed to appear before court this morning due to transport issues. Meanwhile, the accused told journalists shortly after his court appearance that he is ready to face the law.
My COVID results came out negative. I'm ready to face the courts. I'm sure you can see that I'm still a little bit panting, but if the courts called you, what can I do? I have to come before the courts. I don't know how fight has gone. Like, I've been in isolation for over a month, and my concentration was on healing. I will have to find out from the team of my lawyers to find out how fight has gone.
The offense the accused is charged with is contrary to Section 67 of the Penal Code, Chapter 87 of the Laws of Zambia. Allegations are that Kambwili between August 26 and 27, 2019, with intent to bring the name of the president into hatred, ridicule, or contempt, published an insulting matter by words of mouth. Kambwili has over the past 2 years appeared in different courtrooms where he is facing different charges before 5 magistrates. Trial continues on the 10th of November 2020. Miriam Kemba reporting for Camnet TV News in Lusaka.
Meanwhile, Lusaka High Court Judge Mwila Chitabo has dismissed an application to leave to commence the judicial review proceedings by Chishimba Kambwili against Principal Magistrate David Simusamba's refusal to recuse himself from handling his case. Judge Chitabo has ruled that instead of seeking judicial review on the contentious issues, the applicant should have appealed them. In this application, Kambwili sought the court's leave to commence judicial review proceedings in respect to the decision of Magistrate Simusamba to decline to recuse himself from presiding over the case. The applicant has challenged Magistrate Simusamba's decline upon his request to refer the matter to the High Court for constitutional determination of whether he had the right of a fair hearing before an independent and impartial tribunal following the court's refusal to recuse himself. In his ruling on the application, Judge Chitabo said from the authorities he had looked at, it was clear that the discretion that Magistrate Simusamba exercised could be challenged on appeal by an appellant court. Still on court matters, a 44-year-old state witness has testified before the Lusaka Magistrate Court how a former police officer fired bullets at him twice after a land confrontation. This is in a case in which Chandela Musonda, 69, a farmer and lecturer of Kasama Road, Lusaka, is charged with threatening violence. It is alleged that on February 1st this year, Musonda threatened to injure Henry Chipolunga by saying, "I am going to kill you." Let's get the details in this report.
Henry Chipolungu, the man who was almost shot by a former police officer in Lusaka Shantumbu Lilai area in February this year, spoke from the witness dock, describing the pain he went through in the hands of the accused after a gun was pointed at him. The witness described the accused, 69-year-old Chandela Msonda, former police officer, as a tempered person. This case involves Chandela Msonda, 69, a farmer and lecturer of Kasama Road. The accused is charged with one count of threatening violence. Allegations are that on the 1st of February this year, Musonda threatened to injure Henry Chipolungu by saying, "I'm going to kill you." The accused allegedly uttered the words while holding a gun. Musonda, who was seen walking in a rush in the court corridors, appeared for his trial before the Lusaka Magistrate Court and testifying was the man he pointed the gun at. The 44-year-old victim, who is a businessman of Lusaka, narrates how on the material day, Musonda aimed at him after a misunderstanding of a land issue. The witness testified before court that on the material day, he escorted his brother, who owns a plot. However, the accused removed a gun from his pocket after the two parties failed to settle the dispute over the legal owner of the land, both claiming that the land belonged to them. He narrates that few minutes later, the accused children started insulting and beating him using different tools. The victim told court that this led him to tell the former police officer that his brain was not functioning. However, this prompted the accused to remove his gun from the pocket and fire 2 gunshots in the air after aiming at him. The accused is also said to have shot at the victim's car, which was later viewed by the court. As testimony continued, the witness says he did not do anything but stood like a statue with his lips closed. He says the accused has a very bad temper, which he failed to control on the material day. The matter has since been adjourned to 14th November 2020. Miriam Kemba, reporting for Camnet TV News in Lusaka.
And in other news stories, National Development and Planning Minister Alexander Chiteme has donated an assortment of items to children at the University Teaching Hospital UTH Children's Renal Ward. Speaking after making the donation, Mr. Chiteme says he is aware of the challenges faced by the ward, especially that it deals with children that need to come for treatment almost every week. Professor John Musokwa says the donated items will be accounted for by putting them to good use. Let's get the details in this report.
The University Teaching Hospital UTH Children's Hospital, specifically the renal ward, has a bed space capacity of 10 but overflows due to the high demand for medical treatment needs. The ward treats children with kidney failure through dialysis from all the 10 provinces. The challenges that this department faces are beyond the government's effort, meaning that every concerned member of the public is free to come to their aid. Wednesday morning, National Development Planning Minister Alexander Chiteme, in the company of Lusaka Central Member of Parliament Margaret Monakatwe, presented a donation to the ward to help ease the burden experienced on a daily basis.
One of the parents, because my office is just across the road, they mostly come to my office to say there is no support basically from everywhere, including their own families, because at some point they don't even have transport money to come to the hospital, because this process is a continuous process. You have to do it every other 4 days or so. And I thought that we should come here with my colleague to appreciate some of the challenges that the hospital is facing because of what we've brought today, and to further commit that we're not stopping this today. We will continue to render help in supporting what the government is doing.
And Ms. Monakate further handed over a sum of 10,000 kwacha to help with the transportation of patients to and from their destinations.
10,000 kwacha to help with the transportation that you face, taking people out of this children's hospital and sometimes bring them back. This is to support you.
Sure. Thanks so much. I will hand over. I have the chief nursing officer and my accountant. So I think I'll hand over to the accountant. He will know what to do with the money.
The Children's Hospital Chief Nursing Officer, Victoria Ntala, is grateful for the gesture.
Our gratitude to this donation that has been done, we are so very grateful. And Honorable Minister, when you donate to the Children's Hospital, you are actually donating to the whole country. As you heard that we receive a lot of children coming from all over Zambia. So you've actually donated to all the provinces. You've just not donated to Lusaka.
Meanwhile, renal patient Tabo Kawana also added a voice and says the donated items will help in ensuring the healthy stay of patients in the hospital.
The help in terms of giving the medication, the cleaning reagents, the soap, and also what is used for cleaning the wounds. What do you call this? Iodine. Iodine. That is used to clean antiseptic. It's an antiseptic to clean with. Goes a very long way to help our children, and we remain eternally grateful. They use the microwave also to the medication that is heated up before it is administered.
Sharon Kalimbula, Camnet News, Lusaka.
You're still watching Camnet TV. We do take our second set of commercials and return with more news stories. Do not go away.
We all miss the days we would play outside, go to school, and visit fun places. But now, we all have to take care to prevent the coronavirus. Viruses are really tiny particles that we can't see with just our eyes, so we need to keep ourselves safe by practicing good hygiene, such as washing our hands with soap and clean water regularly. We can also use hand sanitizer to keep our hands clean. It's also important for us to keep our bodies and surroundings clean. We must also avoid handshakes, hugs, and standing close to other people in public places. This is called social distancing. The coronavirus has affected millions of people around the world, so we need to stay safe. In the meantime, we can keep ourselves busy by reading a book, watching TV, and doing some schoolwork. There's so much we can do indoors. Stay safe, stay home, and prevent COVID-19. We're all in this together.
This advert is sponsored by the Zambia Revenue Authority, ZRA. My tax, your tax, our destiny.
I have used Oracle Pure Glycerin for 2 years now. It has really worked for me. It has cleared all the black spots on my face. It has restored my skin beauty. It also smoothens the skin. Try Oracle Pure Glycerin for perfect skin. If it's not Oracle Glycerin, then it's not pure glycerin.
Stay home, stay safe. Times have changed. With the advent of the coronavirus, Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company would like to advise its esteemed customers to avoid visiting crowded places. You don't have to move to pay your water bill. You can do it in the convenience of your home. You can pay your water bills through Zanaco Zapit, Stanbic Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, and FNB. You can also use Airtel, MTN, and Zamtel Kwacha mobile money transfer services. For any inquiries to report a fault, please contact our customer service on +260 211 251 571 +260 975 618 618 and toll-free line 5957, Zamtel only. You can also simply email customerservice@lwsc.com. This public announcement is brought to you by the Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company. Water is life. Sanitation is health.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. We continue with the news. Chief Kalasa Lukangava of the Ushi-speaking people of Lwaphulo province has commended government over a number of developmental projects being delivered in his chiefdom. The chief explains that his chiefdom experienced unprecedented developments in the areas of schools, clinics, and roads. Meanwhile, the traditional leader has appealed to government to work on some of the bridges that collapsed during last year's rainy season. Chief Kalasa tells Camnet TV that about 4 bridges in his chiefdom has remained unattended to despite several efforts, and pleads to have them worked on. Let's get the details.
Kanshi twakwete na imbi Mwombe Bridge ile ya Kulunono na kwena wali wafya wakutuka kwa bridge mo nakata ile abantu kuti ako government taila fika kukubombera na kweshe fwebene ukubomba pakutira ifya kule fionaika ema bridges ya shukire sana. Then another bridge ni kwa tayari area kwali bana kwenye school kwali bana clinic elo ka bridge kaba ko kali bita sana apaka kutila ba emergency season bana filo kusta cross isa kuna kusaka school mulando na kukene kali bita ifyo setu alista report bali twebo kutilawe tulolele bamulando kutila government la pato. So pamulando ma bridges no 27 now ukwisa kulubali wa development ile chitwa no uteko buleleta development munchende facial kanalika ukusanisha kona chief government ama clinics bali tupe ama schools ayengi bali ya chita upgrade kuyafumia mu primary no kuyatwala ma secondary levels kutila nakwata mwangoni kale yali ni primary, this time ni secondary school, natukwata Lukangaba yali ni primary, this time ni secondary.
In other news stories, the Center for Trade Policy and Development, CTPD, has charged that the country is facing a number of economic challenges that need urgent attention by President Edgar Lungu's administration. Center Executive Director Isaac Mwaipopo says it is expected that the president irons out some issues as he opens parliament this Friday. Mr. Mwaipopo says it is expected that the president will highlight categorically what strategies are in place to address the debt issue, specifically in terms of a plan of action on debt repayments and public expenditure. He adds that the center acknowledged the negative effects of COVID-19 in the implementation of the 2020 national budget, but that the president will need to restore confidence in the business climate as by sharing plans put in place to promote domestic economic activity while ensuring that fiscal policies align with national priorities around economic recovery. President Edgar Lungu this Friday is expected to address the nation as he officially opens the 5th session of the 12th National Assembly.
As the president is set to address a parliament this coming Friday during the official opening, the Center for Trade Policy and Development would like to share some of our expectations from his address. At the center, we remain greatly concerned with the continued deterioration of the economy, with inflation hovering around 16%, and with the continued depreciation of the local currency, which has even hit a record high of 20 kwacha per US dollar. We are concerned at the center. This is because it will have a negative impact on our local SMEs. it will also have a negative impact on our ability to pay back the debt that we have accumulated, which is now estimated to be around 11.2 billion in terms of the external debt that we have. And we have in mind the interest payments that we regularly have to pay as a country. It is our expectation from the Center for Trade Policy and Development that the President will carry with him a message of hope that will help us understand his plans in terms of helping to lead this country to a recovery. With the negative effects that have also come with COVID-19, it is our expectation from the Center for Trade Policy and Development that the President in his speech will be able to highlight some of the alternative measures through which the country can earn foreign exchange in order to help bring stability to the local currency. A failure to do so might actually put this country in a very bad situation, of which we're already in a bad situation. If you look at the economic outlook for this country, it is quite negative, especially when you look at even some of the projections that have been given by our own Zambia Statistics Agency, as well as international institutions like the International Monetary Fund.
Government has announced the extension of the ongoing Phase 1 mobile issuance of the National Registration Cards (NRSCs) by 10 more days. Speaking when he addressed the media in Kasama on Wednesday morning, Home Affairs Minister Stephen Kampyongo said the extension is meant to facilitate for the smooth running of the exercise. Mr. Kampyongo said that both Phase 1 and Phase 2 are allocated 40 days each to ensure that all eligible persons are afforded equal and adequate time to access the national registration cards. He said that as a result in the commencement of Phase 1, government has decided to extend it by 10 more days, going up to the 19th of September 2020. This story is courtesy of the ruling Patriotic Front-sponsored Facebook page, Smart Eagles. And in other news, Green Party President Peter Sinkamba has described the voter registration exercise that is earmarked to be conducted in October for a period of 1 month as a sham. Mr. Sinkamba has attributed this to the fact that the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, has publicly admitted that it lacks funding to effectively manage the process. He says this clearly shows that ECZ lacks the capacity to prepare fresh voters' registration for the 2021 elections. Mr. Sinkamba explains that in the past, the Commission captured 9 million voters in 5 months, wondering how they will manage to capture the same number in 1 month, especially with a rationed budget. He says this expectation is not realistic and unattainable. Mr. Sinkamba has therefore proposed that the ECZ abandons the new voter registration project and instead just update the register so that the number of new entrants in the register is relatively small and achievable. Let's get the details.
For us as the Green Party, we are very, very worried that ECZ has come up with a roadmap for the elections when the association or should I say the institution is very broke, it has no money to effectively carry out voter registration. Our view is that instead of coming up with a brand new voter register, let them just update the existing register. It will be less costly, and with the financial challenges that they are facing, they may be able to achieve some meaningful benchmarks. Because you see, they cannot cheat anyone that they can manage to register 9 million voters in 1 month. It's impossible to do that. Because even when you look at the 2015-2016 voter update, it took 6 months and they were only able to capture 1.5 million people. So to say that they can manage to capture 9 million people in 1 month is impossible. So really for us, we think this is not feasible, it's not attainable, it's not going to be achievable. And we think that there is need to, I think, sit down and redo their roadmap, especially with regard to the issuance of NRSCs, because without an NRC, no one can register as a voter, and we have a lot of youths. The Minister of Home Affairs is saying almost 750,000 are eligible to register as voters, but only less than 50,000 have so far registered. So meaning that 700,000 required to be given NRCs.
The Lusaka City Council, LCC, says it has agents collecting money in form of levies on its behalf and will not be responsible for payments made to unauthorized individuals. LCC Public Relations Manager George Sichimba says the local authority has noted with concern that the use of unauthorized individuals to process business levies, health permits and fire certificates has resulted in some clients being issued with fake documents and funds are never remitted to the council. The council has commenced the renewal of business levies, health permits and fire certificates. LCC has since warned business owners against using unauthorized agents to pay on their behalf. Mr. Sichimba says the warning extends to the use of unauthorized council employees to pay and process renewals on behalf of clients.
I wish to inform members of the public that Lusaka City Council has sent a serious warning to business owners in Lusaka. This follows the commencement of the renewal period of business levies, fire certificates and health permits. The warning is that business owners should not use unauthorized agents to process the renewals for them, because Lusaka City Council has linked with disappointment that these business owners are using unauthorized agents, and in the process they end up being issued with fake receipts. This warning extends to the use of Lusaka City Council employees. Please, those that are not authorized, even if they are Lusaka City Council employees, don't use them. We have had a problem dealing with disciplinary cases involving employees and outsiders, but this time around the council has resolved that going forward we'll also report business owners to police, those that will be found with fake receipts, because you may be aware that being found with a fake or forged document from Lusaka City Council or indeed any other institution is a crime actually. So to avoid that, we are urging business entities never to use unauthorized agents to come and process their renewal.
We do take our last set of commercials and return with our international and sports news. Do stay with us.
To create a positive difference in people's lives, one must first understand the way people live. At Savenda, we're here for our community, our partners, and our future, as a nation and as a continent.
Back in 1997, we decided we were going to create this family journey into a bigger opportunity, and created a business called Savenda, which meant Save Nations to Develop Africa.
It's always important to give back to the people. The government cannot do everything, but as business entities, we'll be able to reach a lot of people.
From our humble beginnings in the telecoms and mining sectors to our work in energy and development projects, we know how important it is to be true to our roots.
Our services have to be diversified so that we don't depend on one income stream. Back in the village, I was growing up hunting and doing everything that a village boy would like to do. When you're hunting, you don't depend on one trap, for example. You have to have many traps. So those survival skills brought into the business created opportunities that we learned from a young age that you can't survive with just one product. Savenda Group involves Savenda Management, which is a consulting, Savenda Express, which is a corporate branding company, Savenda Electric, which is a manufacturer of energy saving bulbs, Savenda General Insurance, which is a general insurance company, Savenda Fresh Produce, Cyber Africa, which is a center for just dealing with cyber security.
Now, Savenda is combining local knowledge with international expertise. It's time to be a part of Zambia's rising success and Africa's exciting future.
We are a gateway into Africa, and now we are praying with global companies who are coming to Zambia for opportunities and to look for companies that are homegrown. And we are proud to be one of those.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. In our international news, at least 110 people have now died from severe flooding in Sudan as the Nile River reaches unprecedented levels. Hundreds of thousands of people have been displaced. The government has declared a 3-month state of emergency. And in Greece, an overcrowded Greek island camp that has become a makeshift home for thousands of refugees is now a blazing ruin. A desperate effort has begun to decide what to do with those who are now homeless. Fire burned for hours through the Moria camp on the island of Lesbos into Wednesday morning. A state of emergency has been declared on the island, and the Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis is expected to hold an emergency meeting in Athens. Al Jazeera has more details on these stories.
This is how Nafahat Abdurrahman arrives to the doorsteps of her home these days. She comes to see if the water, which flooded it nearly 2 weeks ago, has receded. The yard, which was once dry and where she used to spend most of her evenings, is still covered with water from the Nile River, which is now steady after rising to levels not seen in more than a century.
We were surprised this year when the Nile waters entered our neighborhood. We didn't know what to do. There are no sandbags. There is no one to come and help us with what's happening. We decided to act on our own and bring sandbags, but we found the water coming in from all directions.
Much of Nafahat's neighborhood in the southern part of Sudan's capital Khartoum is now flooded. Some homes have collapsed as a result of the force of the water, as the river, which was once nearly 3 kilometers away, became one with the area. The levels of the Nile started rising 3 weeks ago, causing destruction as it flooded its banks and flowed into villages and towns. More than 100 people have died in the past month as a result, and more than 100,000 homes have been damaged or destroyed. More than 500,000 people have been displaced. Most left their homes with the help of their neighbors who've also lost their homes.
The people here are struggling. Despite all the difficulties, we're helping each other out because we can't abandon each other. We grew up together, so we can't just turn our backs on each other. We have to make sure that everyone here gets out safely because we're part of one neighborhood.
One neighborhood in the midst of dozens that have seen the same devastation.
Those affected by the floods say most of the response so far, like the building of this makeshift barrier using sandbags, has been their own. Volunteers have also formed groups to assist, helping with food and collecting donations. And all have criticized the government, saying, considering floods from the Nile happen every year, its response has been far from enough.
Sudan's government declared a 3-month state of emergency days ago and announced the country is now a natural disaster zone. It says that while plans were put in place to respond to this year's floods, the levels exceeded expectations.
We are using sandbags to block the areas that are being swamped. However, we cannot use them along the whole river. Over the past few days, water levels reached records high. Even bridges were flooded. Residents in affected areas have been evacuated, and warnings were sent to those exposed.
After the destruction and loss of lives, the Nile is slowly starting to recede. But hundreds of thousands of people are now desperate for shelter and aid. They say they hope the government will soon get them out of this crisis. Hiba Morgan, Al Jazeera, Khartoum.
The fire was still burning through Moria camp as the new day began on the Greek island of Lesbos. Around the camp, thousands of refugees, again in search of a home, sleeping wherever they can. Overnight, more than 12,000 people fled as flames began sweeping through the largest refugee camp in Greece. Many looked on as their homes were destroyed. The battle against the fire made more difficult by strong winds.
My house is finished. As far as many, all finished.
The camp in Lesbos, just off the coast of Turkey, was known for its cramped and unsanitary conditions. Built for about 3,000 people, it housed more than 12,000. People lived in huts and tents with limited access to running water. The government says the fires were deliberately lit by some camp residents angry at a continued lockdown due to the coronavirus pandemic. Between 2015 and 2016, thousands of people made the journey across the Mediterranean from Turkey to the island of Lesbos. Many fled from war, persecution and poverty, hoping to find safety in Europe. Since the 1st of March, those reaching the island have been quarantined away from Moria camp due to the pandemic. But for the people who found refuge in Moria, the very little they had is gone. And what was already an uncertain future is looking even more bleak. Laura Bowden-Manley, Al Jazeera.
Caroline Willman is project coordinator for COVID-19 in Lesbos Island for Doctors Without Borders. She says the conditions in the camp have been bad for some time.
Moria is a camp with a capacity of 3,000 people, where at the moment there's between 12 and 13,000 people that were hosted there until last night. And so overnight fires have been raging in different places in the camp. And the earliest reports this morning seem to indicate that the camp is almost completely destroyed. There's a few segments of it still standing, but overall there is very little left. And so these 12 to 13,000 people who have had to evacuate the camp overnight because of the fires are currently in the streets with nowhere to go. So it's obviously a little bit too soon to have really precise and confirmed news about how exactly the fires were started. It seems that it is indeed possible that it was the residents of the camp who started them. What you need to keep in mind that for the last 5 years, there has been a completely inhumane and deplorable migration policy in place in Moria. People have been living in completely inhumane circumstances for the last 5 years, have absolutely no perspective. And this level of stress has been augmented tremendously in the last 6 months with very strict movement restrictions related to COVID-19. And then, of course, the additional stress when last week a first case of COVID was identified in the camp and the camp was put under mass quarantine. So meaning nobody was anymore allowed to leave the camp. So I think what we're seeing now, it's unfortunately the very sad but also predictable outcome of these horrendous migration policies that people have been suffering from for the last 5 years. So there was a first case last week. 2,000 people were tested then by Greek health authorities, and which resulted up to yesterday in reportedly a total of 35 cases who had been put in isolation. Right now, there is nothing anymore in place for COVID because consider Moria camp.
We now take a look at our sports news. In our sports news, Zambia's Super League side Kawe Warriors have announced the signing of Ghanaian striker Bless Selassie Bakai on a 2-year contract. In a statement made available to Zamfoot crew, Kawe Warriors chairman Hayden Dingwall said the club is excited to make new additions to the squad. Dingwall says he is confident that Bakai Bless will perform much better this coming season. He adds that the team performed well last season and is of belief that the club could have finished in a much higher place had the league continued. Kawe Warriors coach Levi Chabala reveals that the aim of the team this season is to finish at a higher position. Bakai Bless joins Warriors from Kaisa on a permanent deal and becomes the first signing of the window. Meanwhile, the club has also announced the signing of winger Jason Daka on a 2-year permanent deal from Sinda United, Eastern Province. That sports news item brings us to the end of the news, but before we go, a recap of the headlines. Chief Kalasa Lukangava praises government's developmental agenda for his chiefdom. UPND maintains Bill 10 is a dead issue. Chishimba Kambwili declares himself fit for all 5 court cases. In international news, Sudan flooding kills at least 110 people. And in our sports news, Kawe Warriors signed Ghanaian striker Bless Selassie Bakai. The Camnet World Verse of the day is coming from the book of Matthew chapter 11 verse 28, and it reads, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Thank you so much for joining me on the Camnet TV main news. My name is Bande Tandiwe. Thank you so much for watching Camnet TV, not just another channel. Stay glued.